Finds the Bartlett. Barkley puts it up. Does it count? It does. Shakeup does. Shakeup center. It's good. Oh my goodness.
Hello and welcome everybody into the midweek Stimmy edition of the Solar Panel. I'm your host, Greg Esposito. Ahoy, hoy. Glad to have you with us and plenty to talk about in this midweek episode as it was the trade deadline. But before we get to it, I want to say hello to the man, the myth, the legend, the Silver Fox, Dave King. How are you?
Hey. What a fun day.
He's only a man, a myth, and a legend because of,
In his own mind.
he's just been around for so long. And then the man from beneath the Carmel Thunder from down under.
The man
It is
from
Saul It is Saul Bookman. How are you, Saul?
F you, Espo. F you. How about that? Okay.
Look at that. You don't have to
You
use
are
a
the
swear
man from
jar.
beneath
Hey,
it. So.
I'm getting creative with my cursing now, so here we go.
And welcome to all of you, the Flaming Ballers, whether you're listening on the podcast or watching on the live stream via YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. We appreciate you guys the most because without you, ladies and gentlemen,
Dave looks
Oh,
25 today.
And it didn't
Thank you
even
very
last
much.
10 seconds into the stream before somebody said, it's all over, man.
Oh,
It's over,
wow.
man.
All right. Well, then I guess we don't. I guess we don't have to do the show. Good night, everybody. No. Look, okay. You may think it was a rough day because the Suns did. You know, if you were looking for them to do something, this is what you got out of it. Absolutely nothing, but that's okay. Honestly, I don't think it's that big of a deal that they did not make a trade at the deadline today. Now, I don't know if that's how the group feels here, and we'll ask obviously Dave and Saul about that. But to me, it's all right that they didn't need to make a major move. They're second in the West. Yes, you can overreact to a loss to Orlando on Wednesday night and maybe to the Minnesota loss last week, but they still are second in the West. They've played very well, and they have a very deep team. But let's start with you, Dave. Were you upset that they didn't make a move at the deadline?
No, actually, I'm not. I mean, really, I know you guys are going to probably come back at me for this, but I really didn't think the Suns needed to make a trade. You're second in the West. You've got one of the deepest teams in the league. You don't even have playing time for Frank lately. So you really need another big man. You need another big man for like every 10th game when Dario is bad and Ayton is in foul trouble. None of these big men are going to want to play every 10th game. Yeah, I would have liked to have upgraded Frank a little bit. I would have liked to have upgraded. You know what I was going to say last week? I would have liked to have upgraded Abdel Nader, but they kind of did with Torrey Craig already. They did we did a live show last week about this. So I think we're mad because we want to be the team that wins everything. And winning games isn't. You also have to win the trade deadline. You got to win the press conference. You got to win the draft. You got to win. I get it, but you don't have to win. James Jones, the GM of the Suns, has proven in the last 2 years, it's okay to lose, to not be the winner at everything. I'll still beat your ass when the games come. He has lost almost every transaction, almost every draft day to the skeptics. He has lost almost every free agency to the skeptics. The only thing that even the Chris Paul trade was questioned when it happened. And yet we've got a team that is second best in the West 18 months after they were second worst in the West. So maybe we should give James a little bit of credit for the roster rebuild and not tell him he has to keep upgrading it again and again and again.
Saul, what do you think?
F your feelings is what I think.
Oh, great.
Yeah, no, no, not you, Dave. I mean, like this need for constant validation in terms of what you need to do as an organization. What did you want to give up? Okay. And let's talk about a couple things, two things. Number one, you had to give up something if you wanted to get something back that was, that was deemed a big enough move to make a difference in the Western Conference. In my estimation, there wasn't one player that was moved that changed the landscape of the West or the East. There just wasn't. Aaron Gordon's good. Sure. Victor Oladipo, he's good. Kyle Lowry would have been good. Kyle Lowry going to the Lakers would have been a super problem for sure. But he didn't go to the Lakers. And if he went to the Heat, I feel like that would have just been like, okay, whatever.
So it's
just, you would have had to give up something. And you got 5 core pieces right now.
Yeah.
You have CP3, Booker, Mikal, Cam, and DA. Do you want to give up any one of those 5 for an Aaron Gordon? No. Would you want to give up any one of those 5 for maybe Vucevic? Probably not.
No.
So what are we talking about here? Because the alternative isn't going to be, nobody's going to want to take, 2027 pick and, whoever we drafted 6 years ago. Like, nobody wants Frank Kaminsky and Abdul Nader in a freaking trade. Like, that's not going to happen. So this idea that we missed the boat on something because other teams made moves. It's exactly like somebody said on Twitter. It's like when your kids get a toy, automatically the other kids want a toy too. And that's exactly what happened today. And people just freaked out. There was no moves to be made. The best option for this team is going to be the buyout market.
Look, I do not disagree in principle, but I do agree in the fact that this team still needs to find some additional depth. I just don't think it was going to happen at the trade deadline based on who moved. You need more big man
guys
depth.
a night.
You need more power forwards.
Frank has barely played the last 10 games.
I think you need another defensive big man to help out Aiden if he gets in foul trouble in the playoffs, because Sarge and Kaminsky are not going to do the job. And JaVale McGee might have fit that mold, and maybe Lamarcus Aldridge will. I don't know. But
Lamarcus Aldridge has never been a defensive big man.
He's a better option than what you have in house.
Look, we will get into the buyout market here in a second. Okay. I think for me, what the disappointment in this is the window is open, right? I think we all agree the window to try to compete for the West is open. Is that fair? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Well, if that window is open, I'm a big believer in you kick it all the way open, right? You got to find a way to make sure that you are a legit contender. Now, you weren't going to land Vucevic without blowing it up. You weren't going to land Aaron Gordon without blowing it up. But the thing that did happen is the Denvers of the world, and you can argue it, but I still think Denver is a sleeping giant, and getting Aaron Gordon may be the jolt that they need to put them back to where they were last year, which puts them potentially at a level above the Suns, depending on how well they gel. And then I like what Portland did in getting Norman Powell, and they have McCollum back. I don't think that makes them better than the Suns, but it does make the back half of the West more difficult to get through now. And that's problematic.
Yeah, I agree. Portland gets better, but really Portland gets better because CJ McCollum and Yusuf Nurkic are coming back. That's what makes them as good as people thought. But you know what people thought they were going to be? Maybe 4th or 5th in the West. With the swap out of Gary Trent Jr. for Norman Powell, I mean,
that's a.
I don't think that's
difference.
I don't think that's a 1 or 2 or 3 win difference. I think that's just a different way you win the same games you were going to win anyway, and lose the same games you were going to lose. I don't see that to win.
The sports books right now, okay, before and after the trade, they had the Nets as the odds-on favorites, the Lakers, Clips, and Jazz. And none of their odds changed today because mostly none of them made a move except for the Clippers getting Rajon Rondo. Okay. Outside of that, the Bucks improved from 8-1 odds to 7-1 odds. The Nuggets improved from 25-1 odds to 20-1 odds. And the Celtics and the Suns stayed pat at 28-1, now 30-1. There was not very much movement. The Portland went from a 66-1 odd to 50-1. Like there wasn't very much improvement.
But even Vegas agrees that the Nuggets got better, and Vegas has them as a tier ahead of the Suns, if you believe what those odds are saying.
Yeah, now, they had them as a tier ahead of this already ahead of the Suns before the trade. Yeah, so this didn't matter.
I agree. And that is the honest truth. But I think this makes them even a step better, and it did in Vegas's mind as well. And that is problematic, because if you want to make a run here and try to get out of the West, you're likely going to have to take on Denver at some point. It's likely going to play out that way, whether it's in the first round if they don't improve drastically in the next few weeks or next few months, or in that second round, you're likely going to have to go through Denver. They got better. The Suns,
Yeah.
you can argue Torrey Craig makes them marginally better, but I still
Yeah,
think there is a move to be made here. And that brings us to the buyout market. That is going to be the only option for the Phoenix Suns is the buyout market, right? Because that's the only way to add a guy now that the trade deadline's
Well,
passed.
if you're
Lamarcus
talking about
Aldridge,
if you're talking about the three, well, there's two main pieces in the buyout market right now that are kind of at play, and the Suns are not rumored to be in either one of them. Maybe Lamarcus Aldridge, maybe, but you're really hoping that Lamarcus Aldridge is like, I want to play for Phoenix more than anybody else. But right now, the rumor is Drummond is looking at the Clippers and the Lakers, leaning towards the Lakers because he knows he's going to start there. And then with Lamarcus Aldridge, you're talking about the Nets, Miami, and Portland are the three teams that are in the running.
Phoenix has been rumored to be in that mix too.
Yes.
And to me, if Drummond is going to the Lakers, that puts additional pressure to bolster your front line. Because if DA gets in any foul trouble, you're screwed. You're screwed because you are not going to be able to play Dario Saric against Nikola Jokic, Anthony Davis, Andre Drummond. You're just not.
Look,
right?
I get it. The Suns' entire chances of getting through all of these juggernauts to get to the finals is hinging on DA. I completely agree with that. 100% agree with that. But I don't think Lamarcus Aldridge gets you through the Lakers either. I don't think if DA's in foul trouble, Lamarcus Aldridge wins you a game.
It could be enough to win you a quarter, and that could be the difference. It could be enough to stem the tide in a bad stretch.
If he was that good, then he wouldn't be leaving San Antonio.
Well, he saw the writing on the wall there, and they mutually agreed.
Yeah, the writing was that he's not good enough anymore. I'm serious. You're talking about guys who are not going to make a difference in winning or losing.
Who that got traded today would have made that difference?
I would have loved Aaron Gordon here.
Oh, yeah, but you would have had to give up one of your other pieces.
Yeah,
then
Crowder.
You create another hole.
I would have been willing to trade Crowder for Gordon, salary-wise.
You were never going to get Crowder for Gordon straight up.
What did Gordon get traded for? Gary Harris. I mean,
and other assets too, didn't he?
There was pretty much Gary Harris. But okay, look, I get it, guys. I'm just saying this is not the right time. Okay, I'm going back to when we had Bobby Marks on a week or two ago talking about should the Suns make a trade. And basically Bobby said, you know what? It's more likely you hurt a team than help a team by making a big trade at the trade deadline midway through the season, especially when the team is playing well. If you add a piece like a supplemental piece like Fournier might have been, but he makes too much money. See, the thing is, the Suns didn't have the right salary structure to be trading it because all their guys are playing well, and so they don't have like a poor playing high salary guy, and they don't have so they didn't have really the salaries to be going and getting a Fournier or a Bogdanovich or somebody who would have been a nice add to the core that's playing well right now. The problem is all the guys who make money are the ones playing well right now.
I do enjoy that you glaze over the part where Bobby Marks said the buyout market is probably where the Phoenix Suns may be.
No, we're going to get to the buyout market, but this is a 30-minute episode, and the first 15 we're talking about trades.
No, we're
not to the buyouts yet.
We did. That's why we're talking Lamarcus Aldridge.
Oh, you jumped too fast to the buyout.
Hold on, let me talk about this though. You bring up Lamarcus Aldridge. You're arguing he's washed. He has nothing left. In San Antonio, is averaging 14 points, basically 4.5 rebounds, an assist and a half, was shooting 36% from.
But they're also in playoff mode, and they still didn't want to. Look, let me talk through my problem with these buyout bigs.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, adjust yourself, Dave. Here we go.
I'm adjusting. I'm sitting up.
Here we go.
I'm sitting up. Here's my problem with these buyout bigs. You got Lamarcus Aldridge. You got Andre Drummond. You got these guys. They are used to big roles where they get minutes. They will put in the points when they get those minutes. They will get the rebounds in Andre Drummond's position when they get those minutes. But they are not the guy who wins you games, and that's why their teams are letting them go. Lamarcus used to be a guy like that, but he's not anymore. Andre Drummond never really was. And the thing is, you can't say, well, yeah, we'll have this guy play when Dario can't match up, when DA gets in foul trouble. But that's every 5th or 10th game. These guys are not going to want to play every 5th or 10th game. Guess what? You sign Lamarcus Aldridge, I guarantee you the dude's playing 20 minutes a night, getting you 14 points, 6 rebounds, and the Suns are losing more games than they currently are.
No,
that's my take.
If he comes here, it's with an understanding of what the role is. And the reason I think that it could happen.
Monty has too much respect for these vets to do that to him. He would not sit Lamarcus Aldridge for every 10th game. No.
He would play him whatever minutes Frank had been getting at any point. He may take some of Crowder's minutes. He
might take those fringe guys like Abdul Nader and Torrey Craig's minutes. Like no need to play those guys.
Right now, I'd rather play Torrey Craig.
I think you have your head in the sand when it comes to what's going to happen here and in the lack of depth there. And what's concerning to me is Saric hasn't played all that well recently. So if Dario Saric reverts back to the guy you saw for 2/3 of last season, you're in major trouble now.
Okay, but you're forgetting the almost entire season in between where he played great.
8 games in the bubble and the first half of this year.
Of course, 2/3 of this year.
Which really hasn't been 2/3 because he was out with COVID and an injury. So it's been a very small sample.
I'm going to hold you to this.
Saric.
Okay.
You can hold me to it. I'm not saying he's going to completely fall off the cliff, but I'm saying it's a possibility.
You're right.
And
then you have Dario that's been playing the last 4 games, then the Suns are in trouble on backup bigs.
Okay, let's talk about the Nuggets for a second, okay? If we just talk about a possible second round matchup with the Nuggets, right? And the Suns have to face Gordon and JaVale McGee and the Joker with just DA and Saric, that ain't happening, dog.
Yeah,
that ain't happening.
They're bounced.
Peace out. That's too much front court depth.
You're going to need a guy. You're going to need a body to throw out there.
We know he's getting it. He's getting going. I sit forward. Saul's voice rises when he gets worked up.
I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying. Just go ahead.
Well, Dave, does this tickle your fancy? People have brought up, is Aaron Baines going to be bought out?
Oh, I know you enjoyed Baines. That's my dream because we know he fits in this offense, and we know he doesn't have a big head.
We know he doesn't have in this offense. We know he fit in this offense. He has not played in this offense.
Not have a
with
big
CP3.
Ego. His whole career has been playing 15 minutes a night, not most games. His whole career, he'd be perfect. Perfect. I just hope the Raptors would do it. That would be perfect.
I love that you're sitting here trying to sell me on Aaron Baines being better than Lamarcus Aldridge.
Yes, in this role that the Suns are offering.
In the slow down tempo of the playoffs, you think Aaron Baines is a better option than Lamarcus Aldridge?
I do.
Oh, let's just cut the feed. Let's just end the show right now.
I think Dave has selective memory of a 14-game stretch of Aaron
I'm more worried
Baines.
about the attitude around the locker room, their fit on the team. I'll give me any minutes. I'll take them. But I don't think those other guys would be happy with a tiny role. You'd end up seeing outsized roles and you wonder why the Suns aren't winning as many games. That's what would happen.
Well,
I think
everybody today felt like we took a big L anyway because we didn't make a move where I just don't understand what everybody keeps saying. Well, this is our window to win it. Like we should be all in and we should be all in. Whereas before the season even started, it was like, we got to make the playoffs. Like we will make the playoffs and everybody will be happy. Now, obviously everything changes, but we have to still realize we've had some big wins over the Lakers. Both those wins were without 2 of their key pieces, except the first game with LeBron, but they didn't have AD in that first game. That's going to change. When we played the Nets, they didn't have 2 of their big pieces with Kyrie and KD, if we should even get to that point. Like there's been pieces missing all over the board, including Portland, as you just mentioned, McCollum, like he's back in the fold. Like I understand everybody's freaking out, but this team is the second team in the West. They might fall to 3 or 4. Be happy with that. Like that's what John Bloom was saying today is like, be happy and enjoy the ride right now because you haven't seen the fucking ride for like 10 years.
But you can be both. I've enjoyed the heck out of this
But you
season.
don't have the assets to make a big move that everybody wanted today. Otherwise, you're just mortgaging the future again.
I
And you're
get
right
that.
back to where you were for the last decade.
I get that. You totally could not mortgage the future to make a move. And you know, I'm sitting here saying shop the buyout market. I didn't think that they should have made a big move, but you can both be enjoying the ride and wanting to do something to keep yourself in the conversation.
As long as you're
it.
not letting it ruin your enjoyment of the moment. That's the
Yes.
problem. There's too many people who are letting that ruin their enjoyment of the moment.
And I have enjoyed the game. Obviously not on Wednesday night in Orlando. I didn't particularly enjoy that, but they lost.
You know what?
To a
If
bottom
the Suns
feeder,
end up in the playoffs against a team like Orlando or Cleveland, they're in trouble. But the thing is, they also have the best record in the league against teams that are currently in playoff.
They would be in the NBA
contention.
Finals if they played.
That's the
Cleveland or
joke
Orlando.
too. He's saying sub
they play
500
down to their competition. So if they end up playing a team they think they should beat in the playoffs, that's more of a problem than having to fight
You got
for
the
the win
whole
because
you got the whole chat going crazy about Baines, Dave. Damn it! Oh my gosh, the entire chat. Oh my god, I would love Baines back and blah blah blah. I'm
Thank
like, oh my
you.
gosh.
They all love us some Aaron Baines.
That's part of the problem here. I don't care if I love a guy. I would take Robert Ory on this roster if he would make them a championship contender. You could put John Paxson on this roster if it kept the window open and opened it further. I do not care if I like a guy when he's not on this team or when he was on the team.
Let me tell you.
I want to win.
Okay, let me come back with this. There are guys who are not helpful for a locker room. I was talking to a Boston Celtics fan today. Was anybody confused why the Celtics dumped Daniel Tice today for nothing? No, it wasn't money. It's because he was having a fight with Marcus Smart in the locker room lately, and that was contributing to the Celtics playing like crap lately, and they're under 500, and they needed to switch up their chemistry because they got players. They didn't care if they liked them or not, and they had players in their locker room that weren't getting along, and they started playing poorly. And tell me you haven't watched guys not getting along in the Suns locker room for years.
I didn't
How
say
about we just enjoy the guys getting along with each other and play? And look, when you get to the playoffs,
part of the problem, Dave.
Look at the Miami Heat. They got to the finals last year because they all knew every person's role and they played for each other, and they got to the finals because they were able to beat other teams that weren't as locked in. This Suns team is locked in. Don't screw it up by unlocking it.
They're so locked in, they lose to Minnesota and Orlando.
They're so locked in. They've got the
lapses.
best record against the playoff contenders.
And the Nets lost, and the Nets lost to Orlando too, and it was the only win that the Orlando Magic had prior to last night in the last 11 games.
They've lost
It
11
happens.
of 13.
It
I
happens.
get that. But I wasn't saying I want guys that'll destroy the locker room chemistry. I'm just saying I don't give a crap if everybody liked Aaron Baines. If he's not going to come in and actually help, that's not the kind of move that matters to me. What matters to me.
If you assume a bad Aaron Baines, absolutely. I assume a better Aaron Baines. That's all.
That's fine. But I think the mentality of, well, these guys like each other, hopefully that'll be enough, doesn't do it for me. All right. I very much want to both enjoy the ride and see the ride last until the NBA Finals. That's my goal.
Somebody commented that LMA could be the guy you would give the ball to in the final seconds of a game you need to win. If the Suns are giving the ball to LMA in the final seconds of a game you need to win over Chris Paul and Devin Booker, I would say they probably passed it to the wrong dude.
But you may not have a guy chuck it out of bounds because of nerves in the final seconds.
Okay, and let's hold it against Devin Booker that he didn't even hit the backboard on his reverse layup.
Yeah, I do. He should have made the shot.
Let's hold it to against Chris Paul for making that pass that put Devin Booker in a place he didn't even know where he was on the court.
I do hold it against him. And I hold it against Monty for a bad final call out of bounds.
So LMA is going to solve all that for you.
I didn't say that.
Apparently you did.
No.
Ooh, man, you guys
I
are
just,
on.
I just don't like the mentality
that he makes it at 40% clip. Let's go for that one.
Look, I just don't like the mentality that we should be happy.
At least he's proven better than Baines, who's like
He's
showed up
proven
in the
at
playoffs
being
like
good
4
at
or 5
making
minutes here and
40% of
there.
his turnaround mid-rangers. We know how Phoenix Suns fans love mid-range shots from big man.
Hey, they love them from two guys that are two of the most efficient at it. So if LMA comes in and hits some, they'll love him too. All right, his name's not DeAndre Ayton, so they shouldn't have a problem with that. I just don't like the mentality that just be happy with where you're at, right? Because nobody gets to the next step by just simply going, well, this is good. I'm enjoying the games. I'm glad to see winning basketball, but I'm also greedy. I want to see a championship, That's just where I'm at.
Everybody wants to see a championship. This idea that nobody wants a championship here in Phoenix is ridiculous.
Bullshit.
Everybody wants to see a championship, but you also have to be based in reality. This ain't freaking rainbows and unicorns. You have to deal with what you have, and unless you want to mortgage Mikal Bridges, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton in a 3-way trade for fucking Aaron Gordon, it ain't gonna happen.
Look, and I didn't say that. I said, give me the buyout market. Let's grab
all this. You're this whole argument. You're saying just sign a guy off the street that nobody else wanted.
It's not that nobody else wants him. Andre Drummond's going to go start for the Lakers. LMA might go start for the Heat.
Man, Tyson Chandler went to start for the Lakers. Was that a good move by the Lakers?
Not this Lakers team. You know who? Isaiah Kanan started for the Suns. What the hell's your point? Like, you're just pulling random crap out at this point. Let's jump to the mailbag. We're gonna reach into the Flaming Baller mail sack, brought to you by our friends at Manscaped. You know what? If you want to, if you're looking to be smoother than Dave and I have been this episode, our friends at Manscaped can help you with that. The code Flaming Ballers, use that at manscaped.com. Save 20%. If you don't want to look like a reverse Cam Johnson down there, all right, you can get Manscaped. Use one of these trimmers. It is the best thing that you can get. It's the best thing on the market. I won't lie to you. You got to head over to Manscaped. We've had 5 people reach out to us already, and these are just people that reached out to us saying, I'm loving the ads. I loved it so much. I decided to buy in, and they also want to get in my prize closet, which is not a euphemism in this ad. if you're willing, if you go to manscaped.com, use the code Flaming Ballers, purchase something there. You will not only get 20% off.
Closet again during a Manscaped commercial. Okay.
You will not only get 20% off. You will not only get free shipping.
Is that what they're calling it now?
If you send me proof of purchase, and no, I don't want a picture of downstairs. I want a picture of the receipt. Thank you. You will be entered to win something out of the prize closet. I've got lots of.
You don't want proof of results. You want just the receipt.
Just the receipt. I do not just need to see the results. That is correct. So Manscaped, use Flaming Ballers code 20% off, free shipping from our friends at manscaped.com. So we head into the mailbag, and Lawrence Barr asks, looking at the West over a 7-game series, are we a legitimate shot at making finals? Lakers at full strength, Denver and Clippers on a good run pose a problem, but are our pieces good enough to beat any of those teams in a series? That's, again, from Lawrence. He emailed us at mailbag@solarpanelpod.com. You can do that too. So let's start with you on this one.
I think that it completely depends on what the matchups are. So let's just go off of this. All right. If the playoffs were to start today, 7 through 10 would have to battle out. So that's the Mavericks, Spurs, Grizzlies, and Warriors for that other spot, right? For the other 2 spots. So you're looking at the Jazz probably playing, let's just say the top 8. The Jazz would be playing the Spurs. We would be playing the Mavericks. Clippers would be playing the Trailblazers, and the Lakers would be facing the Nuggets. Well, I would love that scenario because the Lakers and the Nuggets, one of them would have to go, and that's a perfect scenario. Plus, you would have to avoid the Lakers until the Western Conference Finals, which is an ideal scenario if you want the Suns to make it to the finals. So essentially, you're talking about the Suns having to get through the Clippers or the Trailblazers and Mavericks. I would love that. That would be perfect. That would be best case scenario. If you're looking at having to face the Nuggets, the Lakers before you get to the Western Conference Finals, that's going to be tough. and I don't like my matchup with the Lakers. I like it more against the Nuggets, but not by very much.
Yeah.
Dave,
So
your
you kind of hit that pretty well. I think the toughest matchups for obviously the toughest matchup.
I was going to say that's what she said, but okay, go ahead.
No!
Hey.
Oh, did she get your prize closet?
Sorry.
Okay. So you covered that pretty well. I think the obviously the toughest matchups for the Suns are going to be the Nuggets, Clippers, and Lakers. We all know this. I think the Suns can beat any other team as long as they're playing well and they're locked in. They can beat any other team. Can they lose to obviously they can lose to the Nuggets, Clippers, and Lakers? Yes. Can they beat the Nuggets, Clippers, and Lakers? Yes. A lot would have to go right. A ton would have to go right.
I'm not sold on the Clippers at all. I know that the Clippers put up.
I'm giving Kawhi a lot of credit.
Yeah, but they're just. I feel like Kawhi's just not the same Kawhi that we saw in Toronto as of late. And last year in the bubble, I felt like he just kind of disappeared multiple times down the stretch when they needed him the most. And then we all know about Pandemic P not showing up at the playoffs. Rajon Rondo, though, I will say this. I know it doesn't seem like it's a big move. I'm telling you what, he firms up that roster because of his experience. He knows how to play with dudes. He knows how to get the best out of guys. And he'll give you 1 or 2 playoff games every series that you'll be like, oh, man, I didn't expect that at all from Rondo.
Yeah, okay, but the Clippers already have one of the best offenses in the league. It's the defense that, and just their focus.
It's a mind. We all know it's a mind game in the playoffs.
Right.
And Rajon Rondo.
Back to my comment of having your team locked in together, and this Suns roster is locked in. But anyway,
but they've never been to the playoffs. That's the problem.
That is the problem.
Look at Mikal Bridges last night when the game was on the line, and Eddie Johnson even said, like, my man did not want to shoot that ball. The game on the line, wide open 3, and he just completely chicken-armed it.
Danny Green, with the most playoff experience in the league almost, also airballed a 3 in a critical point for the Lakers last year too. So, but anyway, what I'm going to say here is the Suns can beat all these teams. They are a contender. They're not likely to get through the finals. They would definitely be an underdog in the conference finals for sure.
I think they are the lowest rung on the championship caliber teams in the West. I think they're in that tier. I think we're looking at Lakers, Clippers. I think Jazz might be sharing that rung with the Suns.
We're not even talking Jazz.
Yeah. And then Denver might be in the conversation on how they gel. But I think the Suns are in that, but it comes down to, and nobody's going to want to hear this, and everybody's going to hate the fact that this is the truth, but it's going to come down to DeAndre Ayton.
No, it is. Absolutely.
If you get consistent DeAndre Ayton, if you get consistent DeAndre Ayton on both ends of the floor, this is a championship contender. I think they can hang with anybody in the Western Conference if DA is that guy. If he's not, if he's inconsistent, all bets are off. And that's why I talk about hedging your bet in the buyout market. But in the end, you're going to live and die with DeAndre Ayton in these playoffs, and that's why the next few months are immensely important for us to see him in the right headspace and consistent. But
he's so inconsistent. Even I just think. We don't know what we're going to get in DeAndre Ayton in the playoffs for sure. 100%. We don't know. We know what I'm guessing is we're going to get 70% good games and 30% bad games. If it's any other combination, then that's a problem. But that was a problem for Amari early in his career too. He just was so dominant offensively that he actually, it wasn't really anyway, but I'll take that back. Amari was pretty damn good in the playoffs right off the bat. We don't know what we're going to get from Ayton. We need a great Ayton to win the finals, and scared Ayton is going to lose in the second round.
And you need Mikal Bridges to grow offensively too. I mean,
that was the other person I was going to say too. I think you need a consistent third on offense. And Mikal has shown the ability to do that from time to time. But again, I'm telling you, the playoffs are just a different animal. We all know that. When you get guys that have never been there before, the first 2 games that the Suns play in the playoffs might not be pretty. just because they've never been there before. They don't understand how intense it gets, how physical it gets, and how much, less the refs really blow those whistles. And, it's an adjustment. Yeah. It's an adjustment. And CP3 can only do so much to get them ready for that. It's just a different feel once you get there.
I also think they need to prove it in clutch games, in clutch minutes, in games that have had clutch minutes this year. I believe the stat is the Suns are 11-10. That's concerning to me, especially when you have Devin Booker and Chris Paul as guys that are supposed to be closeout guys. You need to prove that, because playoff games rarely are blowouts, and never is every game that's won in a series a blowout. So you're going to have to win close, and they need to figure that out over the next few months as they go into the playoffs. It's the little things that are going to make the difference in whether this team is a contender or a second round out.
I think it's a 2-year window. I think this is a learning year, and everything is gravy this year. And next year they'll know what they didn't know this year. I do. I shared it today on Brightside that there's only 2 guys in the top 6 on minutes that have any playoff experience at all. You guys just talked about Chris Paul and Jay Crowder. That's it. Yeah. This team is an unknown going into the playoffs for sure. They'll play their butts off. But will they make the right decisions in crunch time? We just don't know. They might have a bunch of 2-point losses.
This is a discussion. This is a discussion for another day for sure. But even the 2-year window, I'm sitting here based off of the experience of this trade deadline. I'm like, what moves could they make in the offseason? You know what I mean? There's a lot to explore there. But we'll get there. Yeah, when we get there.
Yeah. Look, I mean, there's a lot of question marks, but when it comes down to it, Suns have a top 10 offense, have a top 10 defense. They play well in the half court. These are all things that are immensely important for playoff success. And they've surprised everybody all year, right? So why could it not happen in the playoffs as well? We've got a lot left to learn. There's still a buyout market that we'll see if they do anything in. But you know what? There's plenty of exciting things coming up, both here on the program over the next few months and with this team. So I think we all can agree, happy where we are, excited to see where we're going. So that is the show for Dave King. You can find him on Twitter at Dave King NBA. The NBA is there because he knows everything that's going to happen after it happens. And you can find Saul Bookman on Twitter at Saul_Bookman. The underscore is there because he needs space to roll his eyes when Dave and I are just going at it with each other. You can find me at Espo.
That Robert Ory remark almost got you taken off the show. I'll just let you know that right now.
All right, then. Did you see Robert Ory today on the jump? He's a meeting just like I am. So his post career diet very much like mine. But you can find the show on Twitter at Sun Solar Panel and on Instagram. So for Dave, for Saul, I'm Greg Esposito. We'll talk to you on Saturday here on the Solar Panel. Ahoy, hoy.
Barkley, 20-footer, yes, for the tie. Warhurst turnaround shot in the air. It's good. What? Finds the Barkley puts it up. Does it count? It does.